Hi everybody, I'm your host Blake Repine, and what I want to talk about today is what is leadership. I was recently going through all the episodes in the Strategy, Leadership, and Impact podcast that I do and realized I haven't actually done one defining what leadership is. I've talked about a lot of the different qualities of leadership, myths about leadership, but never actually defined what leadership is. When I was in the Army, we defined leadership as a process of influencing others by providing purpose, direction, and motivation in order to accomplish a mission or task. And that purpose is the reason why we're doing something, the direction is how we're going to do it, and then the motivation is the will to do it. And you can also define leadership as an ability to guide and influence and inspire individuals and groups toward achieving a common goal. And it also involves creating a vision and setting direction and motivating others to work collaboratively while fostering an environment that encourages growth and innovation and resilience. And at its core, leadership is about influence, not authority. A great leader earns the trust and the commitment of his team. And I actually share an example of this in both of my books, and I've shared it before on a podcast. A sergeant major that I worked for once who had a very calm demeanor about him, and he never used his authority to get people to do things. And I asked him about that, and he said, if you can, there's going to be times when you have to use your authority, but if you can, always try to get people to do things without using your authority. If you're doing that, they're going to want to do things for you instead of you forcing them to do things for you. So I actually took that on board, and I've always tried to use that same approach. So don't rely on the power that your position has, rely on the influence that you can have. And effective leadership requires a mix of certain traits and skills and behaviors. And today I want to talk about 7 of those. And the first one is vision. So you need to have a clear understanding and a compelling difference to where you're going to take your team or organization in the future. And the next one is communication. So sharing those ideas and sharing that vision and everything, you have to communicate it in a method or in a manner that resonates with others. And whenever it resonates with others, you actually elicit an emotional response. And people tend to do more on an emotional response than they do on an actual just program response or just a compliance response. So again, communication is not just saying it, it's getting it to resonate and saying it in a way that resonates with other people. And then the next one is empathy. It's understanding and valuing the perspectives and the needs of others. It doesn't necessarily mean sympathy, that's much different, but empathy is just really kind of putting yourself in their shoes and seeing it from their perspective. And I find sometimes this actually helps us whenever we're trying to understand why people are taking a certain approach, but also when we're trying to understand why people are doing certain things or try to understand their perspective. And then the next one is integrity. So I'm very big on integrity. This is about leading by example, and I'll do a whole nother video around leading by example. And this is having that honesty and accountability and ethical behavior, and also allowing other people to hold you accountable as well, not just you holding them accountable. And the next one is decision making. Making informed and some timely choices and decisions oftentimes in challenging situations or challenging environments. And it's that decision-making process that actually will help you be successful. They'll help you to be a good leader too, because a lot of times people, they just want direction. They want to know where are we going, what are we doing, and being able to make those decisions. And if you're not quite sure if that's the right way you should be doing something or the right direction you should be going to achieve your goal, let them know that too. That way, whenever you have to change directions or change how you're doing things, they understand why you're doing it. They look, we at least have to get moving to get started, to get going on that journey. And this is how we're going to go. When it doesn't work, let's take a step back. Let's evaluate it, and then let's change direction. Let's change our tactics, and let's get back on track and actually achieve our goal. And then the last one is inspiration. So energizing and motivating individuals to strive for excellence. And this one's an interesting one. So sometimes we have to provide that inspiration, but sometimes we need to teach people to find their own inspiration or their own motivations, and understanding what are their motivations to do certain things and how we can get the best out of them. Because motivation is temporary, it's an emotion, but we need to teach people self-discipline and discipline so that they can stay on track and get things done and get to where they want to go, because discipline will take you further, much further than motivation will, because motivation can be fleeting and it can slowly dissipate. But discipline and self-discipline doesn't, it stays consistent. But like I said before, leadership, it takes many forms. You have transactional leaders that drive cultural and organizational change, to servant leaders that prioritize the needs and wants of other people. And your style of leadership and your method of leading, it's going to change based on the different situations you encounter. And it could change day to day depending on certain meetings you're in or other environments you're in. I know some days I have different meetings with different departments. And each time I go into one of those meetings, I actually have to use a quite different leadership approach depending on the personality of that group, because work groups do tend to have certain personalities around them. And so the leadership approach I take has to change. So that adaptability, so that's one of the ones I actually missed. So adaptability, so navigating uncertainty and adjusting strategies as circumstances changes. I know my own leadership style has changed throughout the years as I've learned things. It has to be adaptable to different situations. Like I said, you have to constantly be changing. So you need to know a lot about leadership, a lot about how to motivate others, a lot about decision making in order to make that adaptability. So some people use the example of what's in your toolbox. So our leadership toolbox, all our tools in leadership, they have to be in this toolbox, and we build that collection up over time. And then whenever we need certain things, we take it out of the toolbox, we use it, and then we might put it back in. So just think about all this and how you actually define leadership, because it's going to be different for everybody. But ultimately, leadership is about creating a positive impact, aligning people's efforts, and really enabling them to achieve more together than they could apart. And that's the important thing to remember. One way you can really define a leader is if people follow you. You're not a leader until people decide to follow you. Until then, you're just an individual. So we all want to be great leaders. Let me know what you think. Thank you.